Okay, so it's better. Very, very good. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Hello, it's very good to see you. So as you know, we've just finished this briefing to the Security Council about the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. You know that in the last few days, unfortunately, there were a number of attacks, which our team there of inspectors could confirm. So at the initiative of Slovenia and the United States, this meeting was convened, and I was able to inform members about the situation there. So I would be glad to take any question that you may have. Maybe we start like this.
Bisan Abu Quick with Al Jazeera Arabic. If I may actually
Yes.
ask about Iran, with Israel reporting that Israel is discussing its response to the Iranian
Yes.
response. Are you concerned that some of the targets might be nuclear facilities in Iran, especially that IAEA inspectors are on the ground? If you still can, and if you can confirm that, actually.
Well, of course, we are always concerned about this possibility. What I can tell you is that our inspectors in Iran were informed by the Iranian government that on the yesterday, all the nuclear facilities that we are inspecting every day would remain closed on security considerations. They would be reopened today for the continued inspections. I decided to stay, to let the inspectors not return until we see that the situation is completely calm. We are going to resume tomorrow. So what I can say is that this has not had an impact on our inspection activity. But of course, we always call for extreme restraint. Actually, what we were discussing here, which was not about Iran or the Middle East, is a tangible example of the need to avoid any physical attack against any nuclear facility. So, but we are there. We continue our work. Yes.
Hi, Mariam Ramadi with Iran International News Channel. Hi. Two questions on Iran also.
Yes.
Yesterday, Ambassador Gilad Erdogan, the ambassador of Israel at the Security Council, said Iran is weeks away from acquiring a nuclear bomb. What is your assessment on that statement? And also the second question, 2 weeks ago, IAEA announced that the Iranian government is not transparent with you regarding the nuclear facilities and their activities. Yeah. Has anything changed since? And what is your main concern regarding the transparency?
Well, our assessment in general continues to be what the agency has been doing for the past few weeks, if not months. First of all, the fact that there is an accumulation of uranium enriched at very, very high levels does not automatically mean that you have a nuclear weapon. The agency, and here we have to be extremely cautious when making statements, as far as the agency is concerned. I don't refer to national statements, but as far as the agency who is inspecting there is concerned, we don't have any information or indication that there is a nuclear weapon program in Iran. At the same time, while we say this, which we need to say, we are telling our Iranian counterparts that this important accumulation of nuclear material at levels that are very, very close, technically identical almost, to weapon grade level, of course, is not irrelevant and raises questions in the international community. This is why we are always urging, asking, requiring them to cooperate with us in full. I can say that I am reestablishing contacts with the Iranian government in order, for me personally, of course, our inspectors continue to do their work, as I was just responding to your colleague here. It's not that we are not there, but we are not there at the level that we consider we should be. So I hope in the next few weeks to return to Tehran and to try to put the situation back on track.
With your traveling to Iran?
We are talking about that. Yes.
Hi, Mr. Grossi.
Hello.
Margaret Bashir, Voice of
How are
America.
you?
I will switch it back to Ukraine now.
Please.
On Zaporizhzhia, sorry, I just wrote so many notes here for you.
Yeah.
Just one clarification
Yes.
first, if I could. You talked about two external lines of power.
Yeah.
That only has two
Yeah.
external lines of power. For those of us who are not nuclear scientists, could you tell us how many lines of external power a facility like Zaporizhzhia
It
should
used to have 10. It used to have 10. So now, as you can see, with only two, one 750 kilowatt and the other 330, with only two lines and frequent interruptions, including 9 blackouts, this safety situation of the plant is very serious because you need this external power supply in order to ensure the cooling function of the reactors, which even at the current status, which is in the jargon we call it shutdown, means that they are working almost at a very, very minimal level or completely stopped. The temperatures are lower, but you have a lot of nuclear material there, and of course, which is still in need of continuous cooling. So if you lose the power that allows the cooling systems to work, then as it happened several times, then you have to recourse, as you would in a private house, you need to use emergency generators, which are, you know, the last line of defense, I would say. So one never wants to be with the last emergency measure, the last emergency tool that you have in your toolbox to avoid a meltdown. So this is why the issue of the power lines is something I am constantly repeating.
And then on the five principles that you
Yeah.
have been going over, you
Yeah.
seem to be pretty clear, excuse me, in the council on 4 of them, but you didn't really you didn't seem to say whether weapons or heavy equipment are being stored in
There is
or
no
around the
heavy
facility.
weaponry there.
There's no heavy weapon.
No, I have to say it, because when we established these 5 concrete principles, we did it not top of my head. It was the result of almost a year-long effort where we consulted with Ukraine, with Russia, on what would be the essential elements that should not happen, should not take place. And we even, if you look at them, we gave some examples. Multiple rocket launchers, tanks, heavy artillery, and ammunition. So at the same time, there is security presence. There are armored vehicles and some security presence at the plant, which has been publicized quite openly, and also in my own report. But when it comes to heavy weaponry at the plant, the vicinity is something else. But at the plant, within the plant, our experts so far have not seen that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Grossi. Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York Ital Press. You know, you've been here several times. I remember a year ago, and you were kind of worried, very worried about the situation. So now, after 2 years of Russian invasion, comparing with the situation, you know, how worried are you, more, less? And today we saw again, you know, the Russian ambassador, the Ukrainian ambassador, pointing finger to each other. Basically, everyone is saying that somebody else fought all the time.
Indeed.
Now, you, in your report, would you clarify, if you had to give a yellow card, which one gets the first yellow card, Russia or Ukraine?
Well, what you raise is a very important point, and is a point that everybody is talking about, this issue of attribution. Point a finger, say it's this country or that country. We are not commentators. We are not political speculators or scholars or analysts. We are an international agency of inspectors. And in order to say something like that, we must have proof, indisputable evidence that an attack or remnants of ammunition or any other weapon is coming from a certain place. And in this case, it is simply impossible. Let me remind you that these attacks have been performed with a multitude of drones. First of all, the drone, as we all know, by their own technical functioning, has a diverse trajectory. It hovers, it circles, it can go into, remember this plant is at the front line, it can go to the Russian occupied territory, it can come from different places. It could be manned from one side and belong to another side. So for us, it would be impossible. At the same time, because we have been looking at these drones, these are 4 rudder drones which can be obtained almost anywhere. So the technical, I would say, forensic is not there to allow me to say it is indisputably something coming from here or there. This is why we keep the information as accurate as we can, and we do not sway into speculating, okay? So this is what we do. You were saying how concerned we are. We are very concerned. This is why at times I have said at the moment, we don't see a problem, but this is very precarious. And some were saying, well, but nothing is happening. You see what happened. This is a combat zone. In a combat zone, any day, something very, very serious can happen. So I have the red card, I have the yellow card, I have them ready in my hands. The most important thing is that they see that the referee is there on the pitch.
Thank you, Mr. Grossi. Alan Bulcati from news agency RIA Novosti. Do you mean that you won't be able anytime soon to define the perpetrator in terms of Zaporozhye nuclear power
Well, that
plant?
depends on the circumstance. That depends on the circumstance. The IAEA would not be in the business of hiding anything. You know, this is very important. When we see something, if we have evidence of something, we do not have a problem in reporting, but we have to be extremely measured in what we do. We know that in a war, there are certain operations. There are sometimes operations leading the observer to believe that something is happening in a certain sense while it is happening in a different sense, intelligence operations and many other things. And the voice of the IAEA is very important. The credibility of the IAEA, which applies to this, applies to Iran, applies to Korea, applies to the Middle East, applies to everything, must be preserved. I am the guardian of this institution, and I have to measure the words so that when we put something on the public domain, it's something that is concrete and proven.
Would you please describe the possible consequences, the area of contamination in case of any nuclear
Well, it would
incident
depend
in
on the
Zaporozhye?
magnitude of the accident. It would depend. If there is a minor leak, then it would be restricted to the perimeter. If it's something bigger, it could be regional. The thing is, and this is what we have been saying, you don't want to try. You don't want to run the risk of something that could have a very widespread effect that would affect, and let us be reminded that radiation would not respect borders or control territories. It would have a very wide, big impact. Yes, sir, please.
Denis Akishev, TASS News Agency. Did you negotiate with either side mechanism of inspection and giving in suspecting accountability mechanism. So how to
Yeah,
how
I
to
understand your question, accountability. No, I mean, the ISAM's mission and the 5 concrete principles that I established here a year ago indicate what should not be happening and says that we are going to be monitoring that. We are not a tribunal, if you want, that would be attributing, punishments or anything of the sort. We are there informing, providing a technical assessment. Sir, yes.
Thank you very much
Hello.
for taking questions, Mr. Grossi. Gabriel Elizondo from Al Jazeera English. Just a
Yes.
quick clarification on your comment, one of your comments to the council. You said just in the last couple days under the IAEA's suggestion that all 6 of the reactors are now in cold shutdown.
Shutdown.
Can you explain the significance? I know 5 were in cold shutdown. Now
Yeah.
that all 6 are, what is the significance of that, and why was the
Well, I
why
think-
did you recommend
yeah,
that?
indeed. This is, as I was partially explaining to one of your colleagues now, this means that the reactors are operating at an extremely low level. They are not producing any energy or electricity or power, which means that the temperature of the core is much, much lower. So in case, if there was an attack or something that would compromise the physical integrity, then the consequences would be easier to mitigate. It doesn't mean that there wouldn't be consequences. It would be an easier crisis to be mitigated. The agency had been recommending, advising the management of the plant to put this unit at cold shutdown like all the others. But this is an evolving situation. Let's see how it continues.
Just one very quick follow-up,
Please.
sir. I'm sorry. And are you and your team getting all the access that you need and demand from the Russian officials on site, or not?
I would say, by and large, yes, but it's also true, and I have said it in some of my reports, that on occasion we haven't been given the access. What happens on some occasions, and we do not have an element to assess whether this is justified or not, we have to accept what we are told. Sometimes we are told that our teams cannot access a certain area. You know, the plant is a very huge site, that they cannot access this site because there's an impending attack or something of the sort. And when this happens, of course, my responsibility for my staff is that we should follow those instructions. But we are asking constantly and saying, like I said again today, that for us to be giving an accurate impression of what is happening, we must have access to the entire site. Yeah.
One more follow-up on Iran, please. What are you hoping to accomplish by traveling to Iran? You say you're going to travel in the next 2
Well,
weeks.
what I hope to accomplish is to get or to put the situation to help put it in a higher level of cooperation, if I can put it like this. We are getting access, which in my opinion could be much better. Let me remind you that, again, a bit more than a year ago, I went to Tehran and I signed a joint declaration with the Iranian government indicating a number of actions that we would be taking together with Iran beyond, in addition to what we are already doing. We started that process, and that process was interrupted. And I have been insisting, and I have been saying, we need to go back to that understanding we had in March 2023. So I hope one of the issues that I should be discussing with the Iranian government, if I return soon, is how to go back to that path of cooperation.
And will you be going to Ukraine anytime soon?
Yes, yes. We need to Ukraine and to Russia, as I have been doing since the beginning. I will. Another point I stress is that we must keep these channels of communication open. One of the precious things about this mission by the IAEA is that we are talking to both. We keep both engaged, and we try to make the most of the situation in spite of the difficult circumstances.
Do you have a date on the calendar?
Not yet, but it will be coming soon. I thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to see you, and I will be keeping you informed of any news. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.